This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 320 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by TotalSaddleFit.com and EcoVet Fly Repellent. On today's show, we have Christina Herniak, who was a scribe for the Pan Am Games just recently, and Jennifer Roth will come on and talk to us about a trainer tip.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Ferguson, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show. With our producer, Glenn is back on with us this week. We're really excited.
Hi, guys. I've enjoyed all the pictures, and I can't wait to hear about the games over the weekend. You guys seem to have a lot of fun.
We did. We had a big time.
You do. Yeah. Every time you're together, you do.
We do.
I know it was a little toasty. We'll talk about all of that in a minute. But first, before we get started with Pan Ams and dressage talk today, I wanted to take a minute to I sent a letter out over the weekend to our mailing list from me to all our listeners, and I wanted to play it on the show, on all the shows this week. So I'd like to play it at the beginning of the show right now, so for all of your listeners to hear, and then we'll chat about it for a second after. So let's take a listen. Hi, everybody. Glenn the Geek here. I just wanted to share an open letter that I wrote to our listeners that was emailed out over the weekend, and I wanted to make sure I read it on all the shows this week as well. And this is what it says. Good morning, loyal listeners. I apologize for the length of this email. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for your support over the last 7 years. In August, the Horse Radio Network will be entering its 8th year. We have come a long way from 12 downloads after the first 3 months to over 7 million in 2014. It's all thanks to you, our loyal listeners and auditors. With your help listening to the shows and supporting the sponsors, we have been able to make the Horse Radio Network one of the top podcast networks in the world. We have done that in a relatively small niche market, but a dedicated, addicted market. It is the love of the horse that brings us together into one great big equine family. And with social media, I think that family is even growing closer and closer all the time. One of the missions of the Horse Radio Network was to help cross the discipline and breed divide and to unite the horse world. We hope to open people's eyes and maybe get them to try new things, and we know many of you have. We have more work to do in this area, but we are chipping away at it and will continue. We have been blessed with the best hosts for the shows over the years. They do the shows because they love being with you every week, certainly not for the money. I could not be more appreciative of their efforts and their dedication to their shows. Let's take a look at some of the numbers that you, the hosts, and the sponsors have helped create. 4,176 episodes we've created, which puts us as one of the probably top 10 largest podcasting networks in the world. 130,000 listeners in 92 countries, over 7 million downloads in 2014 alone. We've interviewed over 6,000 guests, had over 600 product reviews, and hundreds of giveaways. Finally, thank you to our fantastic sponsors who have made all this possible over the years. We always say we couldn't do this without our sponsors, and that is true. We have to test and approve all products we endorse, and we bring you only things that we like and use. You can trust when we talk about a product or run a commercial that we believe in that product or it would not be on the air. Thank you for supporting these companies. I'm raising my glass now with whatever adult or non-adult beverage you have. Here is to another 7 wonderful years together. Now go ride your horse. Well, guys, I want to thank you. I know I talked in the letter about all the numbers and everything, and I sent you some of the responses that we got over the weekend. I probably had about 250 emails from listeners. Thank you to everybody who took time to write and say very nice things. We really appreciate that. And, I have to congratulate you, too. I gave a talk 2 nights ago in Tampa at the Florida Podcasters Association, and we were going over a lot of different things about podcasting because we truly do have one of the largest podcasting networks in the world in all areas. And
Nice.
and the Dressage
That's so
radio
cool.
show came up, and everybody was asking what that was. And I told them how you guys really have doubled the audience in the time since you took it over. And I explained why that is, why I think that you have done that. Of course, first was your electric personalities. That was first.
Oh my gosh.
But we talked about that, and it just putting this all together for this talk I did really made me think about the listeners and put the numbers together, and the fact that we're coming up on our anniversary, and that's why I did the letter. But I wanted to thank you guys for, as I said in the letter, you certainly don't do it for the money. You do it because you love the sport and you love the listeners, and you like, representing the sport, and I appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Well,
You're
thanks.
welcome.
Oh, I know. We got one
Yeah.
letter. I just really, I almost teared up a little. Like, it was really
Yeah.
sweet. And really, Philip and I can say the same. Glenn, we're so lucky to have you, as you've been one of my only bosses ever in my career. And I'm like, this is awesome. I like bosses like that.
They're not all like me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I guess
Truly,
not.
it's been really, I never thought that, when you asked me over 3 years ago now to come on the show, I never would have thought.
I'm so glad that Reese can't tell time, because she said 3 months and it's been 3 years and she
Yeah.
still hasn't figured it out. So
I know,
I'm really
it's been-
glad that you
it's still
can't tell
going.
time.
It feels like 3 months, to be honest.
It's been
really.
it's been really fun, and I also really enjoyed the letters that we were getting, and people's positivity and the encouragement, because for sure Reese and I are not professional radio. I've never done any, sure, for sure, if you've listened to the first few episodes of us, you would
Any
would
of
know
us.
we don't do this professionally, and I was the same way. I said, Reese, all right, I'll give it a try. I'll never say no to anything. So, and here we are. It's like
Well,
3 years later.
I want you guys to feel good about something else too, and we have not talked about this behind the scenes, and that
Uh-oh.
is that I'm learning now, going to these podcast meetings, which I've been ignoring for 6 years, and finally getting back to, and I'm going to Texas to the national one in 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
Well, most podcasters are very happy to get 200 or 300 unique listeners to their show every episode. You guys average 16 to 18,000 in the little sport of dressage. So
Yes, go
Yeah.
Dressage.
So
Ridiculous.
think about that. I mean, they are so shocked by the numbers we get. Now, we've been doing this a long time, and some of them, are just starting. And the other thing is we cater to a very addicted audience. Whereas
Worse
if you're doing
people.
a podcast about improving yourself or whatever, something very general, they're not dealing with a truly addicted audience. They have to fight for every listener, where our listeners are really yearning for information and yearning for content. So I think that makes a big difference. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that makes a big difference.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think, and I hope that everybody understands our passion for the sport, and I think so many other people are passionate about it as well, and we all get together as a community every week, and we just talk. We just talk about what we love, right? And I hope that comes through in our episodes. That's what I think about.
Yeah. And that's why we do it. Philip and I really, we try to educate. I mean, that's what we do. We educate all day long about the sport of dressage. And, this is just another fun outlet for us to be able to teach people about, horsemanship and training their horses better. And I would have never have thought that I would feel this passionately about the show 3 years ago, but really it's so much fun. And I can say that we're
The
all
only
friends.
reason she did this show is I begged. I
You
was
did
on my
beg.
hands and knees.
There was some begging. But I mean, really, truly, it's been so fun. And it's so cute when I'm at a warm up and somebody just hears me talk. And it used to kind of make me nervous. And now I just you listen to the radio, don't you? And it's fun to do that.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome when we get to meet our listeners, and sometimes I don't get as much time because it's at horse shows to chat with people about the show and what they like and what they don't like. But that's,
we really do
that's,
love the
yeah.
feedback. I mean, the feedback
love
for
the
us is
feedback.
why we do it. And we love, we've helped some people with their horses in relatively remote areas. And, that's what we're doing this for. And that's why we're here. And we do it every, or 3 nights a week, 3 nights a month. And, but truly, and I have to be honest, and I love spending the time with you two. It's been so much fun. I knew Glenn and Jennifer before, but I know them in a much different way now. And, Philip and Meredith and Travis and I have all become really good friends outside of the show. And so a lot of really, really amazing things have happened through the show. So Glenn, thank you for all the effort you put in. You really put the effort in. Philip and I just show up for a couple hours and record the show, but you're the one that actually puts the effort in.
I got a pretty good job. I talk for a living. So, it's
but
pretty
there's
good.
a lot of behind this. I mean, there's a lot of editing. We provide a lot of editing.
They asked me, one of the questions that came up is how much time do you spend before and after, pre and post recording? And I said the recording for what we do is the easy part. This is the part we truly love to do, is sit and talk to each other. If I had to just do that, I would have the most dream job in the world. But
besides horse rider.
Yes, exactly. Besides what we do.
Besides what you guys do. But, I would have the greatest job in the world. But we estimate, we figured it out one day, we do about 4 to 5 hours pre and post show for every hour we record. And that's selling ads. That's everything. The website work, everything we do, responding to emails, booking guests, just everything. So there's a lot of work outside the just sitting here and talking. You're right about that. One other thing I want to bring up, and then we'll go on. Okay. We have about 130,000 listeners total to all the shows in about 90 countries, and everybody was truly impressed with that number, and they were all congratulating me after, and I said, you know what I see is opportunity, because there is like 9 million horse people in the world. We only have 130,000 of them.
Yeah.
Right.
These shows got to keep growing, right?
We got a long way to go. We got a long way to go. So when we get to 1 million, we'll really celebrate.
Yeah, then we'll really be high-fiving for sure.
All right, let's get on to dressage.
You got it. Sounds great.
Well, I guess our first thing is just to wrap up our fun weekend.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So all I have to say is Philip and Meredith are really good country dancers. I don't know if I need to say any more about that, but no, it's super fun. Dr. Anna Dunlap and I headed up. It was great. She was my partner in crime for the weekend. She had never seen an international event, and I said, "Hey, come on, let's go to the Pan Ams." So we headed up. I rode all the horses on Thursday, so we headed up after. And got to Philip's, and Friday I got to see Philip ride and yell at him a little. It's so fun.
I was working a little bit hard.
Oh, wait a minute. You got to give Philip a little mini lesson?
Yes. Yes.
A couple of them. Yeah.
A couple. I know.
He's not coming up to Canada without working.
I know. I could not. I tried to sit on my butt, but I couldn't. So no, it's super fun. And that's something that Philip and I are really good, and we help each other out. And that was super fun to meet his horses and see what was going on. And then we did a little touristy stuff on Friday. We did some shopping. Philip is very patient. He's very well trained with the ladies to hang out while shopping.
I know that's a priority. So
yeah,
I like to look around. Yeah,
it was fun. It was great. And Philip lives in a really beautiful, or close to a really beautiful town, and has really fun shops and really unique stuff. So Anna and I, of course, had a great time shopping. And then we met up with Meredith on Friday and had a wonderful dinner, and then went out, did a little dancing. Not gonna lie, we had a big time.
Good time. Yeah,
and
good time.
then headed to the venue on Saturday morning. And so I thought it was cold in Canada all the time. No, it was like one day of summer on Saturday. Oh my goodness, it was so hot. But I thought the venue did. I mean, after kind of living through the games, the World Equestrian Games here in Lexington, and sort of knowing a very small bit about the behind the scenes, they had some challenges with the parking, but really they kept it moving pretty well, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, throughout the entire games, not just the equestrian venue, but I've heard nothing but great things about Toronto and the transport. I thought it was good. I personally thought it was going to be a mess, because we're just not used to the volume of people, but it's been running really well and really smoothly. And for sure, the equestrian venue, we went to the parking, they shuttled us over to the venue, smooth as silk. It was, I mean, really awesome job, So kudos.
And getting us back. Yeah, getting us back
to our car, and then away we went out of the venue every day, within 15, 20 minutes. Like it was awesome. And I don't want to put Lexington down, but it was better job than they did.
Oh yeah. No, less people.
I think there's more people.
There were more people, but no, I agree. It was very, very well done, smooth. And the venue was lovely. I mean, I really liked the venue. Again, it's always a challenge when you go there. I mean, there was a food line the first day. I don't know. We ended up only going on Saturday because it's such a long drive home. It's 9 hours back here. So, but the competition was really quite good. We got there in time to see Chris Van Martels and his Pre St. George, and he really thumbs up to Chris. He did a fantastic job. Is what I read the whole time.
The whole show. Yeah. I
he
mean,
had a
I
great
was
show.
there all 3 days, and his freestyle. I mean, I put it up on our Facebook page, and you can watch it. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I have to say, I'm so proud of the Canadians because I think all the horses peaked at that competition. They did a great job preparing them, and they just rocked it.
They did. They really did.
Going into it, I was a little pessimistic because we know these the U.S. riders are tough and they ride amazing as well. But we were right in there, right up with them. I think we did an awesome job, and the riders that represented our country did a fantastic rides.
Absolutely.
I've seen these horses before. I saw in the lead up to the games at some of the competitions, and they stepped up to the competition and they rode their best, and the horses looked awesome. And I'm just really, really proud to be Canadian and to hang in there with the U.S. riders was
absolutely
great.
They were fantastic. I really, really, truly. I mean, the Americans were good. I saw on Saturday, Stefan had a beautiful Grand Prix. Stefan Peters, beautiful Grand Prix. Laura Graves had a very, very strong Grand Prix. One mistake in the one, she rode something like 13 ones instead of 15 ones, but okay, can happen. And then Kim Herslow had a good Pre St. George. I've seen him be a little better. I think she ended up having a fantastic intermediate one, which was good. That kind of clinched
and then
the goal.
Unfortunately, her freestyle did not go that well. So, I mean, she had some real mistakes. I couldn't figure out what was going on, but too bad for Kim. We love her, and
she's fantastic.
Team Gold is awesome.
Very, very good. And that was really that's what the Canadians were fighting for, and they really put. I mean, it was close. I think it was only 4 points or something. On Saturday when we left.
Yeah.
Very, very close.
We did a great job. Stefan actually had some mistakes in the Grand Prix special on Sunday. Legolas just didn't look like he was on his game. I don't know what it was.
But he came back.
Monday, but he came back for the freestyle and rocked it, obviously. But I think, if I'm going to complain about the games a little bit, I think I was hoping they were going to combine at least 2 of the days of scores to make the individual champion, but they didn't. It was just based on the freestyle score, which I don't really necessarily agree with, because I think if you're going to claim individual gold, my opinion is that you have to ride a technical test and combine it with a freestyle test, and that for me is individual champion. Somebody who can show up for all 3 days or at least 2 of the days and really ride. I know they do I know for the World Cup that they do the freestyle as a champion, and I think that's the World Cup, something completely different. But I think for major games, what do you think about that, Reese?
Yeah, I mean, I actually feel the same way. And we have the Young Rider Championships going on here this week, and it's the same way for the young riders. They pin the individual and the freestyle separately. And I was of the age to be the champion of the young riders. And this is because I haven't done the Pan Am Games, but the young riders, you had to win all 3 days. I mean, you had to show up all 3 days for the individual championship. And
I wish they would do a combined score.
I agree. I just think, I know now it's
everybody can have one good day. That's why I think everybody can have one. And especially freestyles, because some riders are very good freestyle riders.
Yes.
And they have a little bit of an edge there, and and some are not, and some people are really good technical test riders, not so great at the freestyle. But I think a combined score gives you the real true champions.
Totally agree.
But
I'm with you.
If anyone's listening that wants to think about it, or
let us know what you guys think.
But I think that's not necessarily fair. But
I
whatever.
Agree.
Whatever. I'm Canadian, and I think our Canadians showed the best. What's that?
They haven't asked us about it, have they?
So, okay. Yeah.
But it really was. just a super, super fun time. Like we had a great time, and it was really hot at the venue, really hot. But I mean,
We were glad for the ice cream.
Yes. Oh my God. We had an ice cream about 3:00. It saved our life, I think. It was so good. And then we went back, and oh my gosh, I had never really been to Tim Hortons. I went one other time when we went for Philip's wedding. I think Tim Hortons saved our life multiple times on Saturday. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
In the
'cause
morning
cold
with
days,
coffee.
it's all about the coffee, and the hot days is all about the frozen coffee. It's really
Oh my
truly
gosh.
Canadian.
Philip
Yeah.
stopped, and we got that frozen coffee situation. Oh my God. What was it? A cappa mochaccino? I don't know. What did you
Iced
order?
cappuccino.
Oh
Iced
my God.
cappuccino. It's like a Slurpee.
Oh, if anybody could go to Tim Hortons
Coffee
and get one of
Slurpee.
those on a hot day, do it. It was so good. I don't even know the caloric count. I don't even want to know. But
You
it
don't need
was
to know. Yeah, it's
so good.
It's cream and coffee and ice.
It was delicious. It was so good. So if you ever are in Canada or close, we have Tim Hortons in the US. Go to Tim Hortons. It's so good, and get their iced cappuccino. It's been delicious. But it was so fun, and it was great to see. You know, the one thing I didn't really think about is there is a huge disparity between sort of some of the South American countries and Canada and the United States. But man, they were out there. They were loving it. They were so proud to be.
Tons of really, really nice rides.
Yeah.
You know?
There were some very good ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And good for them. I think Brazil was the bronze medalist after Canada. And,
I was going to ask you, was there a country that you went, oh, they're surprising me? Was there a country that really surprised you?
Well, Lou Denizar, who's been on the show before, he did great. He was close to 70 in the Prix St. George, I think 70 in Intermediate 1. Very, very good, and was super fun to.
And a friend of mine, Esther Mortimer, who rides for Guatemala, did a really beautiful job in all 3 tests and had a really consistent riding and looked very good in the competition. So. I can't remember what, and I wish I could remember where she ended up, in the individual, but I really liked how her horse was going and the riding that was going on. And, there was a few, individuals here and there that made you sit up in your seat and say, oh, this looks good, some good riding, throughout. So hopefully, all throughout the Pan Americas, dressage continues to gain its popularity and we get more riders and more representation from our part of the world in the Olympics, because it really sucks that there's only, one team can qualify, for the Olympics through Pan Ams now, where we used to have 2. And maybe we'll have somebody on that can explain that whole situation to me, but I just do not get it.
Well, I got to say that the United States gang had to be really happy that they got their qualifier.
Yes. Yes. Big congratulations.
Big congratulations. But I agree. I mean, after the performance was fantastic, and they really should. There's no reason there shouldn't be
the level of riding. Is good. And Canada deserves a spot, but. Now we have to fight, we can still qualify riders as individuals, and if we qualify 3 individuals, they will comprise the Canadian team at the Olympics, but it's going to be a lot harder to do now. And so there's my gripe. And just before we get off of the Pan Am's topic, somebody said I was being really down on Toronto in our last show, and I have to apologize for that. I love Toronto. There's lots of great stuff going on in Toronto. I thought that the traffic situation was going to be a nightmare, and they've handled it really awesome. So I take back everything that I said. And if you're going to be in Canada soon, even during the Pan Ams, go to Toronto. You can check out the shopping is awesome. The nightlife is unbelievable. The entertainment district and everything's a little bit more centralized than in a bigger city like New York or Chicago or whatever. You can get as long as you can get in and out of downtown. It's the best. It's a clean, safe city. I've never been, I've been down there 2, 3 in the morning and never had to worry about walking around and feeling scared or anything. So it's a wonderful city. It's beautiful. Check it out.
And one quick question for you. I know we have a guest we have to get to. Any of those venues, what's going to be used for the World Equestrian Games, or that's a completely separate place?
No. You're going to have to drive 9 hours. So between Toronto and even more, maybe 10 or 11.
Was that right?
To get to the venue, for World Equestrian Games. So
got it.
We're going to have 2 awesome venues to compete at in Canada. everybody coming up for our CDIs, we're going to be all set for it soon. Okay, so we got a little bit more news because
Okay.
and I got a little bit more Canada love because the North American Young Rider and Junior Rider Championships is going on right now, and one of our Canadian teams has won junior gold. So we're
Wow.
super proud of them. Yeah.
I saw the
awesome.
picture of them all jumping up and down. It was very cute.
Yeah, I posted that to our
That's very cute.
page. Yeah, and California has won Young Rider gold. And Canada won bronze in that. So Region 7 of the America has won Young Rider gold. So congratulations. Next up, we have Christy Nuherniak, who's going to talk to us about dressage scribing. And we'll get to it right after this commercial.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if your horse could enjoy a zone of repellency from pesky flies? Well, he can with EcoVet. EcoVet is an entirely new type of fly repellent that is safe for horses and those applying it, offering a real alternative to toxic pesticides like pyrethrins. EcoVet confuses an insect's normal directional ability, the bug's GPS, if you will. So if it can't locate your horse, it can't bite your horse. Dr. Wendy Ying from the Driving Radio Show has been using it in South Florida, also known as the Jurassic Park of biting insects, and she just loves it. EcoVet's active ingredients are naturally occurring food-grade fatty acids that have been clinically shown to improve the condition of horses with difficult-to-treat sweet itch problems. EcoVet is effective on mosquitoes, ticks, no-see-ums, as well as flies. You can visit EcoVet online at eco-vet.com for more information or to order. You can find EcoVet at Dover Saddlery Stores and EcoVet's on Facebook. Just search EcoVet, ECOVET.
Well, today we are joined by Christy Nuherniak, who was just a scribe at the Pan American Games and wants to tell us all about her experience. Hi, Christy.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing great. Thanks for coming on today to talk to us.
No problem.
Well, we thought we'd just start out with, the simple explanation of what is a scribe and what do they do?
Well, a scribe is a person who sits with the judge at the signed letter around the inside of the dressage ring that allows the judge to focus the entire time of a person's ride on what's actually happening in the ring and narrates comments as well as scores for each of the movements seen in the test, and the scribe's job is to write those down.
Well, Christy, why don't you tell us how you got into scribing and what motivated you into that job?
Well, I guess the easiest answer is to say that I bought a young horse, and we weren't really ready to enter the competition ring ourselves, but I still wanted to enjoy the experience of being a dressage enthusiast and go out to the shows and watch my friends and support them as they were showing. And so scribing is an excellent way of doing that. First of all, it's an excellent way to be educated about dressage because you get to see a number of different tests, a number of different riders from representing the whole scale of wonderful to not so wonderful. And you get to spend your whole day with a judge. So obviously there's an opportunity for education there. And you get to support your sport because dressage shows can't run without volunteers. It's a volunteer position, and it's a volunteer position that pays you back twofold because of the educational component. And really all you need to do is, in my experience anyway, to be a great scribe is having had some knowledge about dressage, preferably written the tests, even if they're just the lower level ones, because then you have a great idea about the pacing and you acquire a great vocabulary for some of the comments that judges are likely to give you, and you can create acronyms and that sort of thing. And you get a front row seat for what are sometimes spectacular rides that you may not otherwise have been able to see from such a wonderful vantage point. So that's essentially how I got into it. And even though I have a competition horse now, I still try and make the time to volunteer and scribe when I can because of the educational experience that I think it gives me as a rider and because it's supporting the sport.
Well, I just love it. Is scribing is really fun, and it is fun from even it doesn't have to necessarily be the Pan Am Games or the Young Rider Championships. It's such a great experience to go and sit in there, and you learn so much. It is so worth your time. So I love that you said at a young horse, maybe you weren't showing that horse at the time, and I think a lot of people are super intimidated about starting to scribe. So how did you sort of how would you tell people to get over kind of that intimidation factor and go and do it? How would you kind of encourage someone to do that?
Well, I don't think anyone is thinking that it's the best idea in the world that you start out at the Pan Am Games.
No.
I think that they're right
idea.
for obvious reasons. However, there are local shows probably around the corner from where your horse is boarded or where you live that are looking for someone to come and donate a few hours on a Saturday or a Sunday and do a few training level, first level, second level tests. And I think if you start there, most judges are so accommodating. They're so happy to host you. They're so thankful that you are allowing them the opportunity to watch the rider and not have to worry about writing, that they will do everything in their power to make you feel comfortable. And it's a great relationship that you can foster with that person, even for just those few hours. But quite often, judges will remember you if you did a really good job, and you can increase your scribing opportunities that way because they might request you in the future. But certainly, if you're just doing it at the local level, everyone anticipates that you have to, start somewhere. No one is without mistakes. Certainly not me. We made mistakes in the box and at the Pan Am's because for whatever reason you don't hear or you mishear or you're a movement behind. These things happen, and these are professional people, and they will absolutely do everything in their power to assist you to make sure that it is a great experience for both of you. So the intimidation, I think, is completely out of the window. As soon as you've been in there for 10 minutes, it happens very quickly that you get a good flow. And like I said, if you're a rider in any way, shape, or form, and you've if you've ridden walk, trot, canter, you can do it. And certainly the judge is going to be there to help you.
So, Christy, how would you tell people, you said multiple times, like how you want to be good for the judge. So how would you tell people to go into the box and be ready for that day and be ready to be a good scribe? How are you a good scribe?
Well, first of all, if the first ride time of the day is 8 a.m., you're there at 7:30. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is get a copy of the day sheets. So the day sheets are essentially the schedule for the day. In what order are the tests being ridden, and in what rider order are they coming into the ring in front of you? And then what I like to do is go through the package, which will be provided for you by show staff. Sometimes the tests are pre-labeled in order if you're really lucky and you have a really organized group of people. Sometimes you're going to have to write the information at the top of the test as each rider comes in. But I look to make sure that I have all the tests that I need in the package that relate to my day sheet. So if it says I have 25 training level rides, I'm going to make sure I have 25 training level tests in my package, and that if it's training level test 1, it's 25 training level test 1. So that's the first way that you can eliminate a lot of problems once you're out in the judge's box right off the top. Making sure you have the schedule and you have enough tests for the day. Sometimes it's going to work out for all kinds of reasons that are way beyond your control that you're going to need a test or you need a different test. And at that point, having a good relationship with show management is kind of helpful. But for the most part, if you problem solve that at the beginning of the day by showing up a little early, you can avoid most issues that are going to arise. I like to make sure that I have the materials I'm likely to need. For example, I have a preferred pen type that I like to use because it works well in all kinds of weather, which becomes important because depending on the arrangement for where the judge and the scribe are going to sit, sometimes you're in a booth, you're very fortunate. Sometimes you might be in a car. Sometimes you might be at a table underneath an umbrella. It's really going to depend on the type of show that you've volunteered your time for. So I like to make sure that I have a pen that's going to work because sometimes ballpoint pens aren't that reliable. And the last thing you want in the middle of a test is for your pen to not work, because that's going to be difficult to problem solve. So I try to think of those things in advance, making sure that you have all the information from show staff that you need about even the simplistic things. When are the breaks? When is the ring being harrowed? Where am I supposed to go to use the washroom, or direct my judge to use the washroom, or direct my judge for lunch if lunch is being provided? Where are we supposed to go? Get that information from show staff. And it puts show staff in a much better position when they know that you're there and that you've taken over that job, that role for them, because quite often there's a lot of things going on in the morning when you arrive at a show. And so having someone who's aware of the sorts of things that can be done to problem solve ahead of time is always very much appreciated. And then, of course, lastly, that you know what to do if there is any kind of emergency. So what is the protocol should there be a rider fall off?
Well, Christy, we were really excited to have you on tonight because you did the scribing at the Pan American Games. So would you like to tell us about that experience, who you were scribing for, and what a great opportunity it was?
Yeah, it was a fantastic learning opportunity on multiple levels. I have never done anything like this at a major games, and I was really fortunate that JT and Barb, who organized the dressage portion of the Pan American Games at Caledon, who asked me if I would be interested in participating in this capacity. I sat at 3 different letters, which was a great opportunity because you get to see different vantage points of the ring. But the entire time I worked with the same team of e-scribe and judge from Denmark, Hans Christian Mathiasen, who was a fantastically wonderful individual who'd never been to Canada and was enthralled by the whole process, as were the rest of us. It's very exciting. The atmosphere was electric. We saw some fantastic riding, and really at the end of the day, a once in a lifetime experience to see, people ride personal bests, people who, were just clearly happy that they were able to participate in a competition like this one, from countries that perhaps don't have the opportunity to be exposed to high level competitions as often perhaps as some of our Canadian and American riders do. And really it was fantastic, and just happy that the event ran so well, and spectators really seemed to enjoy it. And for all intents and purposes, I think it ran really well. From our perspective, in the judges' booth, it was.
From a spectator's point of view, we had an awesome time, and the it couldn't have been organized better. We really, really enjoyed our time. Just one more question for you, Christy. What was it like to be putting down those high scores for our Canadian riders when you're in that booth and you're putting down 8s and 9s and maybe a couple extra 10s for us there?
Thrilling, honestly.
Yeah.
Thrilled for them, and really feeling as though you're a part of someone's once in a lifetime moment. There's really nothing that can describe that, but also so proud of how far dressage in Canada has come in such a short period of time, that we were able to put people on a field of play at a major games, and they were able to go out there and ride their personal best and nearly crack 80%. I mean, how exciting is that for everyone? How great is that for the sport? So I think that it also was very eye-opening for Hans, the judge that I was working with, who has pretty exclusive experience, as I said, in Europe, doing big European shows, has never been to North America. And I think, wow, we really brought it. And hopefully he'll go home and tell, everyone what a wonderful job we did organizing, what a wonderful job we did riding. And, that the caliber of sport here is absolutely going in the right direction.
Fantastic. Well, Christy, thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about scribing and educating our listeners for us. And we really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was an excellent description on what happened at the Pan Am Games. And we thank Christy for sharing her experience. And I really would encourage everyone, if you can, scribe or sit in the judge's booth. You learn so much. And it's probably one of the, I think it's the best volunteer job because you
And
actually
show
learn.
organizers appreciate you so much.
Yes.
You'll get so much love.
Yeah, so
And
much
probably
love.
a free lunch and
For sure, a t-shirt.
good.
And
Yeah, no,
shade. You get
and
shade.
shade.
Yeah, you'll be the
No, it
only one
really is.
shaded in the whole place.
And you learn so much by sitting in there. I mean, just certain things of like how tack looks, or why you ride the circles the way they ride, and I mean, just you
Just
learn
the perspective
so
of a
much.
judge, right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really worth your time to do it. So thank you to Christy for coming on the show. And now next we have the Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week from Jennifer Roth. She is an FEI rider, trainer, competitor from Ohio. She's going to come on the show this evening.
Total Saddle Fit, the shoulder relief girth that Reese and Philip both love. And here's why.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the Shoulder Relief Girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The shoulder relief girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your shoulder relief girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, it is my pleasure this evening for the Total Saddle Fit Trainer Tip of the Week to have Jennifer Roth. She is an FEI bronze, silver, and gold medalist. She is the IDA team coach for Otterbein, and we've been friends for a long time. We were just off air, we were talking about how long, and Jen, it's been a long time. So welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you have a great tip. We were just talking about, what are some pet peeves of yours? And you came up with a great tip with that. So start us off.
Okay. Well, probably my pet peeve is people not going forward enough. I oftentimes have to reiterate that collection is not slow. I'm always coaching my students to go forward. But when I describe forward, I always make sure to mention that forward isn't a miles per hour. If you were clocked by a police officer, it's not, say, 13 miles an hour in the trot or the canter or whatever, but forward is an idea. It's a feeling that if you asked for more, closed your leg on the horse, it would offer to go more without having to beg or plead, anything like that. But it's just, it's the idea that if I put more leg on, my horse would go. And yeah, it's an idea, it's a feeling, not necessarily just sheer speed.
Yeah, and I think that can be very confusing because I think a lot of times, people, have, let's say, fear of going forward. Some of my students are actually nervous about asking their horse to go forward. So what are some tips that you can give someone who's actually a little bit fearful about having their horse sort of going forward?
I like to tell people that are maybe a little bit apprehensive about, going just fast, to use transitions. Transitions within a gait. If you're working on maybe going a little bit more forward in the canter, push for on a circle, a couple strides of lengthening, and then bring it back. So you start, feeling that you can ask your horse in a safe manner, on a curved line where you have a little bit more control, to go a little forward, come a little back. Make sure that when you ask, you do it over a stride or two. Don't make it short and sharp, in the event that your horse is a little bit sensitive to the leg. Or if it's not sensitive to the leg, then you can make it a little sharper and to get a better reaction from the horse. But again, just transitions within gaits, transitions between gaits, the quick to the leg exercise of, walk a step trot, trot walk transitions, halt trot transitions, just anything that gets that notion across to the horse and to the rider that when you put your leg on, it means business. And that, I always often say there's no begging in dressage. The worst thing you can do is nag your horse to death every single stride. Nobody likes to be
kicking around the ring. It's exhausting, and it's annoying both to instructors and to horses, I'm sure, as well.
When you talk about making a horse sharp to your aids, what do you mean by that?
Not fearful of the aids, not fearful of the leg or the spur or the seat, but just, getting a reaction, feeling like that the moment you put your leg on or you give a little bit of a tickle with the whip, that the horse, is responsive immediately, not 6 strides later, not next week, but, now, in dressage tests, once you're, past intro or training level, the transitions start happening at letters, so you have to make sure that your horse is on your aids to get a transition at a letter in a test situation. At home, we can make an extra circle to regroup and come do it again. Oftentimes where people start to have a little bit of difficulty in the test is they don't school at home making transitions, right when it happens. So the horse has to be, sharp to the aid to make sure that you get it when you ask for it, when you need it.
I've got a little tip for you guys as instructors.
Love it.
About what I tell my students. I tell them if they're
Yes,
not willing
please.
to get their horse to go forward, I can do it with a lunge whip. You would be surprised how quickly those riders start to react.
That might scare some of
It's
mine
always,
into
you can do it. You have a
submission.
choice. You can do it, or I'm going to do it.
Well, that's why we're nice trainers, Philip, and you're not. Yes. Well, it's true. And honestly, sometimes, I've had to do that a few times and go out there with a stick and just kind of encourage, maybe not even tapping, but just kind of encouraging some of my.
I like to use the word inspire. I like to inspire them to go forward.
Inspire.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. But there is some level of that makes sense. There's a lot of times if the horse just goes forward, a lot of things are better. So I can see, Philip, how you are actually a very, very good teacher. We're teasing you and very patient, but you've got a point there, and so that makes sense completely. I like that.
Well, my real tip is that if you have a rider that's not so confident, to send the horse forward, that you can actually put them on the lunge line and sort of help and show them what you mean, and the lunge line can give the rider a little bit of feel of security, like, oh, my trainer's attached to the horse, so I don't have to worry so much, right? So that can be a little bit of a confidence thing. And then when they get really confident on the lunge and the horse is responding to them, and you can help them, and then they can get off the lunge line and not feel so afraid. Sometimes it's not afraid, it's not fear, it's just apprehension sort of
Absolutely.
thing. So I think that's the basis of dressage is, getting the horse reactive to your aids and showing some energy. I like to describe forward, what we're talking about here, as just energy. The horse has to make every stride an athletic one, and an athletic stride is an energetic one. The horse has to pick up the hoof and place it way in front of where it would normally if it was walking around in the field. It's a sport. Horse has to be doing a job. So let's get at it, right?
Absolutely.
I guess that's my 2 cents about it. But
I always
there's different
say
ways. There's different ways to be creative about helping apprehensive riders. I guess that was my point.
Nobody survived an upper level test going slow, or they barely did. That's not any fun to be in there any longer than you have to.
Yeah, it's tiring.
It's so true, actually. Well, and Jen, I loved how you talked about riding movements at letters. I think that's really important, and that's the difference between really riding a test and riding at home, when you can go and circle around and do it again. I think at some point you have to say, okay, I am going to do, let's say, this transition at A and do it at A. I think a lot of this in a test situation, or because there's pressure, and you really have to train for that pressure. So if you need to be forward and do a transition at that letter, it'll be prepared for that. So I liked that tip, and I wanted to kind of add on that as well. That was a really good way to do it.
Yeah, and at home, if you do start putting pressure on yourself to say, do that transition at A, and it doesn't go so well, it also teaches you how to fix it in a test situation. Because we've all had transitions that you asked for, and maybe, the horse got a little hollow or got a little behind the leg. And if you don't have practice dealing with those situations at home and figuring it out, you're going to be at a loss in a test situation for sure. So it's learning how to ride the horse you have in the moment, in a test. Practice that stuff at home. If the transition doesn't go so well, learn how to fix it. Learn how to address that right now so that when or if that happens at a show, you're better prepared to fix it within a half a stride or a stride instead of taking, half the test to regroup.
I think that's a good point, and you can put it towards this forward idea as well, and just say, well, if I have a bit of a lazy horse that's a little behind the leg, and I take him to the show, and he is a lazy horse and he's behind the leg, well, at home I have to be practicing being not just forward enough for the test, but probably a little extra forward. So if he takes a little back from you, when you're on the show day, everything's going to be fine, right? It's just preparing for and knowing what to expect a little bit. And so if you're expecting slow and you've been practicing, maybe a little extra speedy, a little fast, then you have some room to play with. But if you're at home and you've got a slow horse and you're just getting to, sort of an okay trot or an okay canter, you're probably not going to have that canter when you get into a test situation, and you're probably not going to be confident enough to really fix it and ride it. So, and just like the other way around, if you have a really speedy horse, very fast, it's okay for the horse to be a little slow at home and to be practicing that way, so that when you get in the test and the horse gets a little nervous and the rider gets a little nervous, you've already had that in the plan. You've already compensated for it, and you're going to be fine. So
Absolutely.
know your horse, right? Know your horse. Know what you have to get done, and be practicing for worst case scenario every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's good. And this sort of all circles back around to, is your horse forward? Are they in front of your leg? Is the horse running? I think the idea that being forward is a state of mind, I think, is so important for all riders. So, and I love that way. So one last question for you, Jennifer. Talk to us about working toward a lengthening. This happens, and you're going for your small R judging license. So fingers crossed and good luck with that. But what do you tell people? A lot of times I hear riders, they say, well, I can't go forward in the lengthening because my horse is just going to run. Can you just address that a little bit for us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
So the two things I really talk to people about when they're either themselves learning to first do a lengthening or their horses are first learning to do a lengthening, I talk about, the corner and the preparation in the corner. You have to kind of condense and coil all that energy, hopefully that forward energy that you've developed by having your horse, going of its own volition, coiling that energy, rocking it back, and the importance of not only continuing to ride the quality of the trot in the lengthening. A lot of people hit the diagonal, whether they prepared for it or not, and just gun it. And the horse, there's no sort of suppling, there's no sort of half halt, there's no sort of focus on straightness. They just gun it. So I always remind people you're still trotting. So you still have to ride the quality of the trot. So don't just do nothing and kick and think that that's going to work out for you, because it isn't. I can test that. But coil the energy in the corner, come through the turn straight. If your horse isn't straight, it's not going to take even strides behind. If it's over flex to the left or to the right, you're going to have a shorter stride on that side. So make sure that the horse is absolutely straight. And then don't push them past their balance. Feel, because that's when you're going to have a break in rhythm or a break in gait. You're going to push them to the point where they can no longer balance, and they're just going to run downhill, and then something icky is going to happen. So really thinking about coiling the energy, keeping them on their hind legs. You're going for a longer length of stride, not faster. So you have to keep the weight balanced more on the hind leg. And then when bringing back from a lengthening, I like to tell people, use the barrier of the ring. Too many people finish their lengthening, and they just haul backwards on the horse. The horse slows its hind legs down, and then it's this braced, tight-looking transition. Whenever I go across a diagonal, whether it be a lengthening, medium, or an extension, I use the boundary of the ring, the natural, visual boundary for the horse, to already start to be bringing that horse back. And remember, downward transitions require more leg than upward transitions. And I know that seems a little counterintuitive, but when you're asking for a shift in balance, it's like a plane landing. You have to land hind end first and then come down on the nose. You have to be thinking about, adding leg so that when the horse does shift in balance, it rocks back onto its butt, not just dumps onto its face. So don't just pull back on the reins. You have to actually close your legs so the horse can step more under, to reshift its balance to slow back down into the working or collected gait.
Well, that's a fantastic tip. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the air tonight. How do our listeners find you online?
Yeah, you can email me, of course. My email address is dressagerider7, that's numeral 7, at AOL.com. You can also find me on Facebook, which I'm sad to admit I'm overly active on. I'm Jennifer R. Ross on Facebook. There is another Jennifer Ross. She is an S judge. I am not that person. I'm just a lowly small R candidate. But my Facebook is Jennifer R. Ross. You can look me up there. And also I have a Facebook page, Milestone Farms LLC. So you're welcome to find that as well. I would give you my website address, but I am ashamed to say I'm technologically illiterate. So I have not updated my website in probably about 2 years, and that's a little embarrassing. So I'm not going to direct anybody there. Nobody wants to see that mess.
That's okay. We can find you other ways. Well, Jennifer, thanks so much for your time, and we look forward to having you on. Once you get your small R candidacy, congratulations on that, and we wish you luck.
Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate you thinking of me tonight.
Please remember, we were talking at the top of the show, we love emails and Facebook shout outs. We love it when we hear from our listeners. So keep it up. You guys do a wonderful job, and we really, really appreciate it. So please keep that going. And you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com and email me at philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a great show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.